Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
Actress wife, the best thing imaginable or not. Today's first installment of a story with a similar plot. Enjoy the show! Cadence and I sat at the table, enjoying hot tea. Cadence, my wife, was in a particularly joyful mood. "Roger, you'll never guess who showed up at our meeting this afternoon," she said. I shrugged my shoulders in confusion. "No, honey, I have no idea, but it must be someone special if you're so excited." "It seems incredible even now," she continued. We were sitting, chatting about what to do for our summer holiday, and Nigel Jameson walked in. We were part of the theater society for many years, and Cadence often acted in plays that the society organized. In recent years, she has taken on a more senior position and helped lead the society. Now she is on the committee and is considered a kind of leading light. Nigel Jameson's name immediately jumped out to me as he is a semi-celebrity. He has acted in several films and television shows. "Wow! What was he doing at your meeting?" I asked. She could barely contain her excitement. "It turns out he's bought a property on the outskirts of the village on Ramsbottom Lane. He's going to go local. My God, we're going to have a celebrity in town. That should interest the local single women." She gave me an angry look. "Stop it, Roger. He's a married man. Anyway, he wants to be in our next play." "What? He wants to play a role in your next play? Oh my God, this seems a little unbelievable. Has his career gone downhill or something?" "Oh, stop being so mean. No, he decided to step away from the bright lights but still wants to stay in the game, so to speak. He reached out to us and offered his services. Oh well, I guess it could be good for the group if he doesn't mind using his name for promotional purposes. How is he, anyway? He always seems so pumped up on TV." She frowned. "Actually, he's great, very nice, and he already has some great ideas for the group." I played a small role in the activities of the theater group, being an electrician by trade. I ran their sound table and lighting when they had a play. I was never interested in acting or drama, so I only participated to support Cadence. She was completely and passionately obsessed with it. Over time, when the children left for university, she used this as a way to fill the void. Gerald, our eldest, studied law, Michael, our middle child, studied sports science, and our youngest, Diana, yes, she is named after that same Diana, was a social butterfly like her mother. Her circle of friends was huge. She liked to be the center of attention and enjoyed being in the spotlight. She studied English at school with grandiose dreams of becoming a writer. Her backup plan was to become a journalist. I haven't seen Cadence this excited about anything in years. I think we've been a little stuck in a rut lately, Cadence with her drama society and me with work. Lately, it seemed like we were living separate lives in many ways, so seeing her so excited was nice. Although, by the end of the evening, I was sick of hearing about bloody Jameson, that's for sure. Cadence, although 42 years old, was a very attractive woman, slim and with a good figure. Even after the birth of 3 children, she maintained excellent shape. I attributed this to her passion for cycling. She never went anywhere by car, she rode a bicycle every day. She could often be seen circling around the village, looking gorgeous with her long, silky, naturally blonde hair flowing in the wind and her summer dress flowing around her. I often caught local men casting admiring glances at her. It made me smile and feel proud. When she became involved in the theatrical society, she quickly became a star, not only because of her appearance but also because she was a natural actress and easily took on roles. The next day, out of pure curiosity, I drove along Ramsbottom Lane. It had been a long time since I last went there. I only knew which house was Nigel's by the many cool cars in the parking lot. It had been a long time since I had seen such a collection of very expensive cars. It was an estate bordering a mansion, very grand, you could say. I was impressed. Our little village was a quiet place, which was the reason why Cadence and I chose it. After having our children, we decided that we wanted them to grow up in a small community with social values, where they would be safe from some of the influences available to children in the concrete jungle of Greater London. So we spent many weeks driving around the English countryside until we stumbled upon this little paradise. Upper Porth is a small village on the Dorset coast, and it was perfect for us. The village was large enough to meet most needs but was close to the sea and the natural beauty of the surrounding farms. After much searching, we finally found a great house on the edge of the village with rambling grounds and lots of bedrooms. Indeed, when you move away from the hustle and bustle of city life, you can get more for the same money. Life was wonderfully idyllic. However, I felt that Cadence was experiencing the effects of an empty nest. After the boys left, the house seemed big and empty. Even though I felt it too, the only good thing that happened after they left was that Cadence's relationship with Diana really blossomed. It wasn't that their relationship had been bad before, it was just that with the boys in the house, Cadence's time was split between them. Now that Diana had entered her teenage years, it was nice to see how well she got along with her mother. She was the center of her universe. Teenage girls go astray so often, and seeing mother and daughter form such a close relationship was encouraging for a father. Diana, a very attractive girl, began to attract the attention of local boys. As the week unfolded, it became clear that I would have to meet Nigel. I heard his name on every corner. The committee had a couple of meetings to discuss the options and plays that Nigel had suggested. I decided to wait until Wednesday of the following week when the group had its committee meeting. It was not customary for me to announce my arrival, just as it was not customary for me to burst in without warning. I showed up with a bag of tools, pretending to fix the lighting in the light booth. I observed Nigel communicating and interacting with other committee members. I was amazed at how easily he charmed everyone around him. All the women and even some men admired him as if he were a megastar. Their admiration for his celebrity was astounding. I had always considered myself an ordinary guy, and I found this sycophantic fawning rather off-putting. Even my wife was hanging on him like a moth to a flame. I didn't stay for the whole show, I'd seen enough. Perhaps it was jealousy on my part, but this veneration of a man who, let's be honest, was nothing more than a supporting actor irritated me. At home that night, Cadence could not talk about anything except the meeting and the chosen play. She was in a state of delight when she told me about it. "Oh my God, you won't believe this, but Nigel himself wrote the script." "Really? What's it about?" I asked. She cast a thoughtful side glance at me. "It's about a marriage in trouble. The wife is having an affair." "God, that sounds terrible," I muttered. "What do others think?" "It sounds very cheesy. The decision hasn't been made yet. We're still discussing it. There has to be something better than this." "Really? It doesn't seem like anything the group would be interested in." She cringed a little. It raised a few eyebrows. "Well, I guess we'll wait with bated breath," I muttered quietly. "Can I look at the script?" She seemed a little nervous as she handed it to me. While Cadence bustled around in the kitchen, I quickly skimmed through some of the pages, glancing at her from time to time. Her face was bright red. I hadn't seen her blush this much in years. The text was full of simulated intimate scenes, lots of scenes without anything, and the dialogue bordered on the plot of an adult film. I threw it on the table. "God, I hope you're kidding. This is the worst kind of garbage." She cringed at my abrupt refusal. "It's a little outside our usual comfort zone, I admit, but it's a good thing, isn't it?" "No, damn it, it's terrible, cheap and vulgar. Besides, it's poorly written. You're too harsh, honey. It's not that bad." "Not that bad? Oh my God, Cadence, where do you think you'll find an actress to play the leading role? None of our group would agree to this." She shuddered but answered hesitantly. "In fact, Nigel suggested that I would be perfect for the lead role." I choked on my tea. "I hope you told him no." Well, it was actually quite flattering. It's nice to know that he thought I would be suitable to play next to him. "So he's going to be in it?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes, dear. He's going to play the leading role." I picked up the script and glared at her, then back at the script. "Do you understand that you will have to be almost without clothes for the entire play?" Her grimace told me she understood. She was about to say something, but I interrupted her. "Are you going to sit here and tell me that you're ready to stand on stage in front of the entire village in nothing but your underwear? It's not so bad, dear." It will be a chance to act on stage with one of England's leading actors. Leading actors, my 5th place. He's already faded into the background. His career ended years ago. Lately, he's only been seen in dog food commercials. Stop being so angry. Nothing has been decided yet, we're still thinking. We have a meeting again Friday night to discuss it. I just hope others see it for what it is. She seemed upset by my lack of support. Roger, if the others agree, I'd like to participate. Forget it, Cadence. The others will never agree. She shuddered anxiously. What if they do agree? Will you support me in participating? I wrinkled my nose and muttered, maybe, depending on what role you're offered. But I will tell you one thing, you can forget about the leading role, because I will never support it. The house became quiet that night. Cadence was offended, and I wondered if she was serious about this. Cadence and I had often discussed the world of acting and the media hysteria that surrounds it. We talked about the roles that actors had to play and how the latest celebrity breakup news often made headlines. We saw the pain and suffering, but also how the breakup was fueled by scenes of intimacy in movies. We both thought it must be impossible to kiss and be intimate with someone and not develop feelings for them, and how hard that must be for partners. We agreed that this whole industry seemed so fake and superficial. This was part of the reason we decided that when she started accepting roles in plays, she would not take on roles that required her to kiss other actors. We didn't want to create tension in our marriage. Friday came quickly. The whole village was talking only about the play. For the first time, I decided to use my position on the committee. I had been an official member for a long time, responsible for the design and construction of the sets, as well as managing the sound and lighting equipment for their productions. I usually skipped committee meetings, they were too boring for me. I waited until meetings about set design and construction, but this time I couldn't miss it. I was going to speak my mind loudly. Unfortunately, I had a longer day than planned at work. I arrived at the theater to find the parking lot full. It looked like it was going to be a very busy night. I walked in to see everyone already seated at tables joined together. Cadence noticed me and came over to greet me. What are you doing here? Her voice trembled. I came to express my opinion. She looked very worried and almost pleading. Roger, please don't make a scene. I snorted derisively. Not my intention, dear. Just exercising my rights as an elected member of the committee. We walked back to the table, and people moved chairs so I could sit next to Cadence. As soon as we sat down, I noticed the only person I didn't know was Nigel Jameson. He saw me looking at him and stood up to lean across the table and extend his hand. Good evening, Nigel Jameson. I shook his hand without answering. He frowned but sat back down. What a nasty guy, that was my first impression, and it hasn't changed. The meeting was chaired by Anthony Gibson. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get down to business. The play Nigel suggested to us for the final performance of the season, I assume everyone has read it? There was a chorus of yes responses. Then I'll give the floor to Nigel. He'd like a chance to talk to all of us. Nigel stood up, cleared his throat, and began, thank you, everyone, for inviting me to your little group. It was a pleasure meeting and talking with you all. He looked around the team. I also want to say thank you for considering my script. This is my first serious screenwriting experience. I know it may be a little riskier than what you usually imagine, but I think that by going beyond that, you'll attract a whole new audience. I'm looking forward to getting involved. You might be interested to know that I've been in touch with a director friend, Harry Leonard. He's very interested in directing. This caused a collective gasp. Harry Leonard was a widely respected director with a stellar reputation. As soon as Harry read the script, he was sold. He thinks it could be a hit. If all goes well here, he's offered to take it to a few bigger theaters. This caught the group's attention. Anthony nodded and took control. Thank you, Nigel. There has been a lot of discussion about this project. I think we should have a roundtable discussion to hear everyone's views. Sitting to his right, Janice quickly stood up. Sorry, Nigel, but it's not for us. I don't want to offend you, but it's disturbing. Honestly, the language and night scenes mean my answer is no. She sat back down to murmurs of approval from the group. Claire was next. She glanced at everyone before adding her thoughts. Sorry, but I completely agree with Janice. There's no way I would be comfortable with this. It's too rude. Next up was Cadence. She, like the others, stood up to address the table. I think this play could be an amazing journey for us. I agree, it's far from our usual. I love the script and would love to be involved. She looked around the group. Let's try something new, a little experimentation. It could be innovative for all of us. We will all learn. It was my turn, and as I stood up, Cadence looked at me with great concern. I saw that others also had tense expressions on their faces. I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but I've read the script, and I have to say it's absolute filth at its worst. Nigel quickly interrupted. Wait a minute, old man, there's no need to say that. I looked at him angrily. Sit down, you've already spoken. He looked around the group for support. Cadence pulled my hand. Roger, please sit down. No. I'll tell you my story. This script is the most disgusting pile of smut I've ever read. It's completely disgusting. The language itself should tell you how wrong it is. This is not theater, and there's no way I'm going to participate. I sat down to a chorus of approval. The rest of the group was split. A couple of the younger guys were interested, but only one of the other women, Avery, was in favor. Felicity was almost as judgmental as I was. Anthony had difficulty restoring order. Okay, Nigel, I'll ask you to leave us for now. We'll vote and call you back to give an answer. Nigel nodded, stood up, and left the room. Okay, group, let's show our hands. Those in favor, raise your hands. Cadence and only 3 others raised their hands. Who's against it? Anthony announced a sea of hands rising, including mine. There were many more opponents than supporters. Thank you, said Anthony. Let's call Nigel back and give him the bad news. We'll have to find another play, so get to thinking. When Nigel received the news, he was very annoyed. After the meeting ended, everyone gathered in the kitchen to drink tea and eat biscuits. Cadence walked up to him. I'm sorry, Nigel. I was hoping, but it seems it was in vain. Felicity walked over to talk to Cadence. They had been friends for many years. I guess you could call them best friends. At home that night, I was putting the kettle on when Cadence showed up. She was still out of breath from her bike ride home. We sat down at the table, and she sighed. Damn it, it was terrible. I shrugged indifferently. You shouldn't be surprised. No group would like that, not after your performance. She snorted, displeased. Oh my God, Roger, you were so rude. Poor Nigel. It was completely inappropriate. Sorry, but I couldn't just sit there and be quiet. I'm glad it's over. She shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe how narrow-minded you are. Damn, I can't help but think we missed a fantastic opportunity to do something special. Nigel will never want anything to do with us again. He must feel terrible. I'm sure he's heard worse, I said. Diana came down and joyfully asked, How was your meeting? Cadence responded sharply. It was a disaster. Your father behaved terribly. I was absolutely desperate for him. Diana gave me a strange look. Dad, what did you do? She asked with a mocking intonation. I'll tell you what he did. He was just rude to Nigel. He was disgusting. Diana quickly left, heading to bed, leaving Cadence and me to talk. Darling, you weren't seriously considering this, were you? I asked. Actually, I have. I know it's a little different from our previous roles, but think about it, Roger. The opportunity to work with real actors and a real director, Harry Leonard, it would be incredible. We always said that you would never accept roles that involved kissing. This damn script includes so much more than that. She sighed. Honey, it's just kissing. Nothing terrible. What about the night scenes? Oh God, it's just a simulation. There's nothing obscene. She hesitated, whispering almost guiltily, there's nothing indecent there. Later, as we sat in the living room, Cadence wanted to continue the conversation. "Roger, you're making too much of this. Don't you understand? This would be the biggest role I've ever played and the opportunity to work with Nigel. I didn't think you'd mind." She tried to lean over to see the TV past me, but I reached out, took the remote control, and turned it off. "I'm sorry, Cadence, but I'm not happy with the way you're dismissing my concerns. I've never been comfortable with your involvement, and I expected you to take my concerns into account, not just brush them off as if they didn't exist." She bit her lip, holding back a response. I took a moment to add more. "This man has a terrible reputation as a ladies' man. I'm sorry, but I would never agree to that." She looked stunned. "Are you telling me that you would deny me the biggest role of my life, depriving me of the opportunity to act alongside one of the most respected actors in the country?" I snorted derisively. "Actor, my ass. He's a second-rate nobody. But yes, honey, you're right. I'd rather you had nothing to do with this." She stood up and walked toward the stairs. "You don't have the right to boss me around, Roger. I can make my own decisions. Oh God, we're married. There are expectations. If you ignore my concerns, there will be consequences." "I see," she growled, standing at the foot of the stairs. "What are you going to do about it? Send me to my room? Forbid me to leave?" I was stunned. What could I do? She was right, I physically couldn't stop her. Everything became quieter. Luckily, there was no more talk about the stupid play. The following week, I felt like Cadence and I weren't on the best terms. We didn't fight, but the lack of intimacy was obvious. Later, when I came home late, Diana was home alone. "Where is Mother?" I asked. "She's at the theater, some kind of meeting or something," Diana replied sadly. "What's for dinner, Dad?" "I don't know. Just give me a minute to change, and I'll prepare something." I changed without showering and returned to the kitchen. I started making scrambled eggs and toast. Diana came over to help, and we laughed about our day. We were already sitting at the table when Cadence walked in with a very smug look on her face. "Hi, family," she greeted. "What's for dinner?" "Eggs and toast," I muttered. "Yours are in a warm closet." She came to the table. "How was your day, Diana?" she asked. Diana told a long story about what I had already heard. When she finished, I asked, "What was the meeting about?" She shuddered slightly. "It was a special meeting to discuss Nigel's play." "Wait, did we discuss this last week?" "Yes, but Nigel spoke to the members about it and offered to finance it himself. He would cover all the costs and pay for everything." "So, we voted not to do it?" "Yes, but he spoke to the members, and they changed their minds." "What do you mean, changed their minds?" "There was a change. Some members decided that they had voted too hastily and they changed their minds." "I don't understand. We should have held a special meeting to discuss this." "Honey, that's exactly what today's meeting was about. We voted to continue. You can't hold a meeting without an announcement." She sighed. "The announcement was in last week's Examiner. It was announced. Everyone was there. Not everything. I didn't even know. Why didn't you tell me last week?" She shrugged indifferently. "Sorry, I must have forgotten. We haven't been talking much lately anyway." I muttered with dissatisfaction, "You didn't tell me because you knew what I would say and how I would vote." Looking guilty, she reluctantly admitted, "Yeah, okay. I didn't want you to make a fool of yourself again." "What was the result of the vote?" She shuddered. "It was close. I'm not sure of the exact numbers." "Jesus, Cadence, that was mean. I will file a formal complaint. I want to be able to speak out." "Don't make a scene, honey. We followed the rules. There was nothing sneaky about it." "So, are you going to continue?" She nodded. "Yes, honey. We start rehearsals next week." "And what role do you play?" She blushed a little and turned away, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm going to play the female lead." "No, you won't," I barked. Roger, please. I really want to do this, and I'd like to do it with your support. Like hell. I refuse. I forbid you to have anything to do with this. She softened her tone, trying to reconcile. Roger, you're being silly. Darling, it's just a little kissing. Please, don't make a big deal out of it. Come to the theater when we start rehearsals. If you talk to Nigel, you'll see he's a very nice guy. You will love him. Cadence, I'm not kidding. This is serious. I insist you will not play this role. She sighed. I don't want to fight. This play is everything I've ever dreamed of. Please, it's not as bad as you imagine. She walked up the stairs, leaving me sitting in thought. When I went to bed, she was studying her lines. She didn't even notice my presence. I climbed in next to her, roughly throwing back the blankets and making noise. She gave me a scathing look as I got comfortable, but unlike usual, I rolled over onto my side of the bed, away from her, pretending to sleep. After reading for a while, she snuck up behind me. Roger, everything will be fine. I know I should have told you, but I was nervous about what you would say. I ignored her, focusing on my breathing. Please, my love, don't be like that. Honestly, it's all innocent. There's nothing to it. My coldness overtook her, and she sighed, rolling away. Okay then, be it. You are behaving very badly. In the morning at breakfast, I tried again, but this time I was more decisive. Cadence, I forbid you to play this role. There will be plenty of other opportunities to work with the old codger, even in this play. Just take one of the other roles if working with him is the driving force. It will still be possible. I saw her face harden, and she became aggressive. You forbid me? She laughed. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? You forbid me? I'm not a child, Roger. I'm a grown woman and I make my own decisions. Cadence, we have always taken each other's opinions and concerns into account. We agreed when you first started working in the theater that you would not play roles involving kissing or physical contact. She sighed. I know, but this is different. It is important. I don't want to fight. I would like you to support me and I don't want to go against your wishes. Growling, I snapped, if you are honest about my concerns, then just take on a different role. You can still participate. Please, dear, come to the theater, watch the rehearsals, and then make a decision. Like hell. I won't bow down to this. Cadence, I stand firm on this. You shouldn't take on this role. She frowned. If you're trying to start a fight, you're going the right way. You make me act even more decisively. I'm not a child. You can't boss me around. Cadence, if you argue with me about this, there will be consequences. I won't be made a fool in front of the whole village. She took the plates from the table. Really? And what will these consequences be, my love? No talking? No intimate? Well, let me tell you. If the last few nights are anything to go by, it's going to be pretty nasty out here. Her voice was quiet, but there was no hint of compromise in it. I don't know what that means, Cadence. Ultimately, I guess it could mean disappointment in our marriage. She quickly stood up, dropping the plates. What are you saying? What I think you're saying? I asked. I nodded. Yes, I think I've made myself quite clear, Cadence. You're right, this is non-negotiable. If you go against my wishes, then you will leave me no choice. Oh, for God's sake, Roger, you're acting like a spoiled child. It's just a play. This does not mean that I'm having an affair with this man. I don't care, Cadence. I don't feel comfortable with you walking around in front of all our friends in an almost empty place, kissing and talking to another man. Damn it, once the rumor gets out, the whole village will be there to see it. I read the script, Cadence, you'll have to be almost without clothes on stage. This is disgusting. I'll carry on. I don't get along with anyone. It's just a scene in a play, and the language, well, that's how young people speak now. You know this as well as I do. Oh my gosh, what do the other members think? Who agreed to be part of this fiasco? She looked embarrassed, staring at the floor. Well, most of the group is happy with it. We are a democratic group, you know that. We always go through the drama of selection and never satisfy everyone. I refuse to believe that the majority actually supports this. Damn, Cadence, this is trash. Stop being so rude. Damn it, it's just kissing. There's nothing here that you wouldn't see in everyday life. After all, this is just a modern play taking an age-old theme. Not everyone agreed, but there is never complete agreement. There's nothing unusual about that. Even so, if you refuse to listen to my wishes, then I will be very unhappy. I promise you this, I will not hang around here listening to village gossip about my wife, or me for that matter. I refuse to be publicly ridiculed. Public ridicule? What the hell are you talking about? What are you going to do? Should I leave? I took my things and left, leaving her standing and looking after me. I didn't really know what I was threatening. All I knew was that I was angry and needed to leave before I said something I couldn't take back and would regret forever. I'm sure she thought I was joking and blowing off steam, and I guess even I didn't know if I was serious. It all exploded so quickly that my brain stopped functioning. I decided to talk to some of the other participants. I caught Felicity first. Felicity was one of our best friends and very involved in the community. I met her at her little flower shop, and when she noticed me, we hugged as usual. I waited until the customers left and said, "Sorry to be blunt and direct, Felicity, but what do you think of this damn play?" She grinned. Damn, this is terrible. I refuse to be a part of it. I can't believe Cadence is actually willing to be a part of this. I think we were all seduced by Nigel in the beginning, but once he brought that pile of garbage to the table, it drove a wedge into the committee. The only people who were really in favor were the men, the damn perverts. None of us want anything to do with this. I nodded. What is Nigel like? Oh, in real life, he's even more pompous and pretentious. I think he's an idiot. True, when I first met him, I thought he was charming, but his true nature quickly showed. I chuckled. Well, at least you're honest. I left with my fears justified. At least I wasn't the only one who thought so. During the day, I was able to contact several other committee members, especially other women and a couple of men. They all shared Felicity's opinion, perhaps not as harsh in their disapproval but still opposed. In fact, I couldn't find a single person who had anything good to say about it, other than a couple who were sitting on the fence. Apparently, there was a small core of members who were enthusiastic, but those I spoke to were definitely against it. My time with Felicity and the other committee members had put me way behind schedule. The day had stretched into a very long one, and by the time I stopped the van at home, it was almost dinner time. When I walked in, Cadence was frantically preparing the table. She was dressed very elegantly, rather than in the usual sweatpants and t-shirt. She chided Diana, trying to get her to help while setting out the best utensils. "Will we have guests?" I asked. She looked at me with a smile. "Yes, dear. So hurry up and change, as they will be here soon." It was nice to see her smiling. I half expected our argument to still be in full swing. I left them alone, wondering who we had coming. We usually didn't have any guests during the week. After finishing my shower and changing clothes, I went downstairs. "So, who's coming?" Before I received an answer, there was a knock on the door. Cadence quickly stopped fiddling with the table settings and headed towards the door. When she opened it, I was horrified to see Nigel and a stunningly beautiful woman, half his age, standing there dressed as if they were going to the BAFTA Awards. The woman was so much younger that I wondered if she was his daughter. The three exchanged kisses on the cheek, and Cadence invited them inside. She introduced them to Diana first, and both said what a beautiful young woman she was. Nigel was a tall, slender man with narrow hips. His face began to show signs of excessive condescension. He had a voice straight out of Eden, as if he were playing the role of a professor at the very top of society. Francine recognized me, leaning over it and kissing me on the cheek. We didn't do that in this part of the world, and I pulled back a little, leaving her looking at me strangely. I gave Cadence a very cold, icy stare as she pulled me aside and led them into the living room. As we approached the table, Nigel picked up a very large bottle of champagne and handed it to Cadence. As we sat down, Nigel started talking. "So, Roger, Cadence told me that you're also involved with the Dramatic Society. You're doing stage management and something else?" His casual disregard for my role irritated me. "That's right, I do a little when I can," I replied, pulling back and giving him a cold look. "Actually, Roger, my name is Nigel," he said, hitting a nerve. I giggled. "Yeah, that's right, my old mate." "Don't worry." Cadence gave me a dagger-like look. It was Francine who patted my hand. "He's serious, Roger. He hates it when people shorten his name." Cadence poured us all glasses, trying to restart the conversation. "So, have you ever acted in the theater?" "No, I'm afraid not." "For me, it's a bit pretentious," I replied. Nigel was taken aback by my snarky comment, but it was Cadence who snapped, "Roger, don't be so damn rude. You know you love to help and you always enjoy the performances." Diana, however, laughed at my comment. Nigel tried again. "So, will you be helping out on the night of our big premiere?" I shook my head. "No, don't be afraid. It's really not my cup of tea. I prefer not to be associated with anything as cheap and tasteless as this disgusting nonsense." Cadence interrupted him. "Roger, stop it. You're being rough, and you're always making the lights and sound." "Not this time, my love." Cadence tried to get things back on track. "Roger, stop being stupid." "Don't worry, Nigel. He's just joking, trying to be funny, isn't he, dear?" I decided to leave it at that, and the table became quiet. Nigel returned to his suave and charming self, seeming determined to win my affection, but I had no intention of changing my mind about him. He was a slimy, pompous snob. He went on and on about the roles he had played, throwing out names as if they were pennies from heaven. Cadence hung on every word that came out of his mouth. His wife, Francine, on the other hand, looked completely bored and seemed to have more in common with Diana than with the rest of us. They were having their little conversation at the end of the table, discussing boy bands or something. The night gradually became more and more uncomfortable when he turned the conversation back to the play. "Roger, why don't you come to the theater when we start real rehearsals? See for yourself, you might like it." I shook my head. "Sorry, Nigel, but I won't interfere." Cadence turned to me. "Darling, tomorrow evening we will need you to control the lights. You know you're the only one who knows how they work." I shrugged. The conversation died down. I pulled out my phone and responded to a few emails and messages, but I actually used it to be rude, and it worked. Every time he asked me a question or made a comment, I remained glued to my phone, completely ignoring him. It became so obvious and unpleasant that Nigel and Francine left. They barely made it out into the driveway when Cadence exploded. "For God's sake, Roger, you were absolutely rude to them. Lord, you were like a child. I have never been so embarrassed in my life." I angrily retorted, "Cadence, I can't understand why you invited them here. You know how I feel about him, and you also knew that I didn't want us to be involved in this play." Diana, who had come to see what all the shouting was about, looked scared and visibly upset. We had never quarreled so much in our entire life together, and it was the first time Diana had heard us yell at each other. When she saw how tense the relationship was between her mother and me, she whispered with tears in her eyes, "I'm going to bed." Cadence sensed her anxiety and rushed over to kiss her goodnight as she disappeared into her room. Cadence gave me a mean and angry look. "Roger, see what you did now? Diana is upset too. The reason I invited them is because I thought that if you had a chance to talk to Nigel, you would see that you overreacted. But no, you couldn't even be polite. I'm disgusted. How could you be so openly rude in front of invited guests? You know perfectly well why I'm upset, but you put all these concerns aside. Roger, this is crazy. You're acting like an idiot." "Sorry, I'm not changing my mind. If anything, after meeting him, I'm more convinced than ever that I don't want you involved in this." "Well, I'm just as adamant. I'm doing it." She drew her line in the sand. "Cadence, you know I love you," I said. She grabbed my hand, interrupted me, and kissed me. Honey, I love you too, but I want to do this. I need you to understand that it will mean a lot to me. Darling, it would be amazing to be able to say that I played alongside one of England's greatest actors. Famous actors? I hissed. For God's sake, he's a nobody. He's just another desperate wannabe. Do you think if his services were still in demand, he would be doing this? No, it's because that's all he has left, I said. She looked offended. So this is what you really think about our little troupe? Do you think so little of us that we don't even deserve the services of someone famous? I'm sorry you think that way, Roger, because that's what I do. Okay, if you feel that way, but I warn you, I won't tolerate it. I'd rather leave than put up with the whole village laughing at me. It seems a shame to ruin a 25-year marriage over something stupid, but if that's how you feel, then I guess that's it, she said, leaning back on the counter. That's not what you mean, is it, Roger? My love, this is just a stupid jealous overreaction. I don't understand why we're fighting over something as trivial as this. We are fighting because you ignore my concerns. If you don't respect my wishes, then I'm afraid our marriage may very well be over. Hell, even Felicity thinks it's trash. I left, slamming the door behind me. I went down to the local bar and ordered a pint. Alfred, the bartender, looked at me slightly puzzled. Are you having problems at home, boy? We usually don't see you here during the week. It's nothing, Al. Just me and Cadence had a fight, and I needed some air. He laughed. You two are fighting? Core, this is an unexpected twist. People here think you're the perfect couple. I laughed with him. Yeah, well, you wouldn't say that now. I had a couple of pints and we chatted for a bit before I wandered home and found the place in the dark. Other than our bedroom, Cadence and I had never really fought before, and we'd never been mad at each other long enough to get angry and go to bed. However, that is exactly what happened tonight. When I came in, she was reading her lines again, repeating them. I rolled away from her and pretended to be asleep. However, this time there were no hugs and good nights. I got up early for work, and as I was packing up the van, an evil thought occurred to me. I stopped at the theater, went to the lighting control panel, and sabotaged it. There would be no lights that night. Yes, it was petty and vindictive, but I couldn't help but laugh as I walked out and climbed back into the van. I had to work late, finishing a couple of jobs on farms in the surrounding area. As I was driving back to the village, my phone rang. Noticing that it was Cadence, I left it unanswered, sending call after call to the answering machine. I immediately went home and, driving past the theater, noticed that it was shrouded in darkness. I laughed a little before driving home. Diana was waiting. Usually, when there was a rehearsal, I cooked dinner, but that night I was late, and she cooked it herself. So what's going on, Dad? Why are you and Mom fighting? It scares me. There was no point in sugarcoating it or lying. We'd always been honest with our kids, and there was no reason to change that now. So I explained everything that was behind our fight and added that maybe Cadence and I would break up. She choked on her chicken nuggets. What? You're kidding, Dad. It's just a play. A stupid play, right? Yeah, dear, it's a stupid play, and if your mom saw it, she'd be fine. But she thinks she's in the West End or something. She cringed. Dad, that Nigel is a fool. You don't have to worry about that. Amazed by her insight, I smiled. Honey, it's just a principle. She finished eating, and I saw how upset she was. We hugged tightly, and she held on as if she were afraid to let me go. When she got up to go to bed, tears came to her eyes. I wondered where Cadence was, but eventually, I went to bed and turned off all the lights. Cadence arrived around 10 and was obviously drunk. Rushing into the bedroom, she flicked the switch, flooding the room with bright light. Why didn't you answer your damn phone? She muttered. I growled and pulled the blanket over my head. Because I sure as hell didn't want it. The damn lights won't work. You know you're the only one who can make them work. Tough. If the lights didn't work, where were you? We all went to the pub for a drink, and it was bloody fun. You should have been there. Nigel was a real laugh. You should have heard the stories he told. Everyone was in fits. If you'd answered the phone, you could have come with us. It was bloody fun. I didn't answer, and she hissed, "Damn it, why are you so stubborn about this?" When I didn't even look up, she sighed sadly. "Could you fix the light in the morning? Otherwise, we will all have to go to Nigel. He offered us his office so we could rehearse as understudies." "Great," I said, rolling away from her and covering my head with the blanket until she turned off the light. She tried to press herself against me from behind, but I pushed her hands away. "Oh my gosh, honey, how long is this nonsense going to go on?" she whined. "As long as you don't give up on this damn play." She didn't answer but pressed herself against me from behind. I left for work early in the morning before she even got up. I decided to fix the damn light because I didn't want her going to his house. Around 9, she called me and was screaming wildly on the phone, the angriest I had ever heard her. "What the hell did you say to Dee this morning?" She is in complete despair. She cried so much that she had to stay home and not go to school. You really scared her with all this talk about separation. Well, she asked what was going on between us, and I wanted to be honest with her. I don't believe you told her that. I just can't believe you could be so cruel. The poor girl is devastated. Well, if you're that worried about her state of mind, quit the play. I won't. I can't understand why you're so stubborn. I hung up, angry and frustrated. I decided to contact a lawyer for advice. As I considered my options, there weren't that many. I managed to find one from a nearby village, so it was another long day. As I drove past the theater, I noticed all the cars and Cadence's bike. She didn't use the newfangled bicycle, it looked like an old medieval relic, but she liked it. For her birthday last year, I completely refurbished it, and it was like new. When I got home, Diana was curled up under a blanket on the couch, watching a movie and crying. I cooked dinner for us, and while I was cooking, Diana came in. "Are you cooking enough for Mom?" I shook my head. "No, she's at rehearsal, so she'll probably be late." "But you always cook enough for her and leave it in the microwave." "Not today, dear." She ran out, her eyes wide. I had to take her dinner to her room. I went to bed early, so when Cadence returned, the house was dark again. I heard her open the microwave. The TV was on, and I was almost asleep when she came in. Nothing was said until she climbed into bed and snuggled up behind me, resting her head on my shoulder. "Would you like to hear about the rehearsal?" "No thanks." "Thank you for fixing the light." "Roger, can we talk, please?" Everything got out of control. "You're right, and frankly, I'd like to see this over and done with." "Darling, if you would just go downstairs like you always do, it would be much easier, and you would see that this is not nothing. You're all wound up over trifles." "No thanks. I don't want to watch some dirty old lecher kiss my wife, and what's more, the thought of every man in the village watching it at the same time terrifies me." "Roger, I've kissed other men in front of you before, and I've never had this reaction." "Don't be naive, Cadence. A kiss under the mistletoe is very different from this. It's just a kiss." "Just a kiss?" "Yes." "So, will his tongue be in your mouth?" She turned away, guilty, unable to meet my gaze. "Well, it will be like that, honey. It's a love scene, so of course, it has to look real, but it's just an act. There's nothing to it." "Damn it, I'm not watching another man kiss my wife." "How did Dee feel when you returned home?" I asked, trying to dispel the rising wave of anger. "She wasn't happy. Apparently, she was crying." "Roger, can't you just talk to her and explain that you didn't mean it, that you're just angry and attacking?" "No, I can't because it's not true. The truth is, I'm being made to look like a fool. If you think I'm hanging around here to be a laughingstock while my wife has a night with another man, you're mistaken. You were adamant about doing this. Well, I'm telling you that if you do that, I'll leave, and yeah, I'm not sure if I'll come back." The color quickly drained from her face, and she stumbled back towards the door frame. "You're kidding. Please tell me you're just being cruel." "No, I'm completely serious. I told you what would happen." "How did your kiss even go?" "He's a good kisser." "Did the rest of the actors like him?" Roger, you're acting like a teenager. We're miles away from that scene, but it will happen. Honestly, Roger, you're overreacting. Really overreacting. Yes. So what happens when Diana comes down and watches the play? How do you think she will feel watching her mother kiss another guy? We're not kissing, it's just a game. She growled angrily. Oh, for God's sake, you're funny. She hissed. The next few days were much the same. The house resembled a war zone. Their rehearsals usually lasted 2 evenings a week, but Nigel pushed them to be more professional. He invited his friend to direct and tried to treat them like a professional theater troupe, which some did not like. Cadence, on the other hand, seemed enthusiastic. It wasn't getting any easier, and I wondered how things escalated so quickly, why it was so explosive that we couldn't even talk about it to each other. I wondered if, even if she said she was leaving, we would be able to go back to our normal lives, or if it would haunt us forever. In fact, I was hoping that I still had a chance to make her change her mind. I hoped that once she realized I was serious, she would change her mind. That evening, when I got home, Dee and Cadence were sitting in the kitchen, talking, and both seemed happy. I hoped it was good news. Dee ran up and hugged and kissed me. Cadence came over, and we hugged. Just like she said, dinner is almost ready, my love. Dinner was pleasant, and Dee chatted. Cadence asked about work, and I asked how she was doing at the vet, where she worked a couple of days a week. Everything was like the good old days. It was so pleasant. After Dee went to bed and we moved into the living room, Cadence threw it at me. Roger, you should come to rehearsal, even if it's just one time. I'm convinced that once you see it, you'll realize it's just like any other play and there's nothing to be upset about. Please, at least come once. Why? I already told you I don't want to watch it. Love, there are hundreds of successful marriages in the film industry where husbands and wives see their partners kissing other actors all the time. I just think if you see it, you'll know it's nothing to be upset about. I tried to come up with a convincing argument, but I ran out of gas. Okay, when will that scary moment happen? Tomorrow night for the first time. I guess so, but don't complain if I go on stage and hit him. She laughed nervously. Roger, don't you think this is too much? No, I don't think so. I'm not sure I can watch it. But this is not real, it's just acting. It was another sleepless night. When I left for work in the morning, she asked, will you come to rehearsal today? Yes, I'll pick up Diana and we'll go together. Diana, she stuttered. Why are you taking her? She doesn't like the theater. She might like it this time, considering she gets to see her mother kiss another guy. She turned away, muttering something under her breath. That night, I left Dee at home after dinner and went to the theater. There was the usual crowd there, everyone gathered and discussed various scenes. I crept unnoticed, trying to stay in the shadows. I was amazed that I didn't recognize many of the actors. All the actresses were strangers to me. Clive and Henry, 2 of the mercurial members of the troupe, stood 5 feet away from me as we watched. Finally, around 9:30, they reached their first kissing scene. Nigel pulled Cadence close to him in a passionate kiss, wrapping one arm around her waist and the other behind her head. I heard Henry say, "Damn it, look at this lucky guy." When they separated, I saw Cadence look around among the hidden group of spectators. She was pale, looked guilty, and embarrassed. I watched as she scanned the room to see if I was there, but I remained invisible to her. Great. The director snapped, now let's try again, but this time with words. He barked. Nigel laughed apologetically. Yeah, sorry, Harry. Apparently, we got carried away. Cadence straightened her skirt and added, sorry, I'm not. Henry whispered in front of me, it's better than damn television. Nigel and Cadence worked through the lines before he pulled her into his arms again for another kiss. This time it was even more passionate and furious, and Cadence returned his passion, her arms wrapped tightly around his neck, their tongues battling. Henry laughed, my God. Clive nodded, sighing. Oh my God, that's right. Damn, what a lucky guy. Look at his hands, they're everywhere on her damn tits. I left silently. As I stepped out into the cool night air, I felt overwhelmed. I staggered like a drunken firefly, leaning over to try to breathe in the air. Damn it, this kiss, the way she responded, it wasn't a game, she was into it. I angrily kicked a rock at parked cars, setting off an alarm. I drove to the pub, my shaking hands weakly gripping the steering wheel. I was at the bar when Clive and Henry came in. As soon as they saw me, they stopped in their tracks, their laughter dying away. It took a few minutes before they said hello. "Hey Roger, haven't seen you at rehearsals for a while." "No, that doesn't interest me," I muttered, embarrassed, a deep sense of humiliation washing over me. "I guess it's for the best," I heard Henry whisper to himself. Cadence was already home when I arrived, sitting in the living room watching TV. She looked at me coldly when she saw me. "I thought you were going to come to rehearsal." It was an accusation, not a question. I changed my mind. "I went to the pub." "Disappointed," she sighed. "Oh, are you hungry? I could cook something." I ate fish and chips at the pub. She tried to raise her voice to revive it. "Can we talk, honey? We need to clear things up." "Yes." "How was your kiss?" "It was just acting. There was no fun in it." "Really?" "That's not what Clive and Henry said." She instantly blushed and quickly turned away, hiding her embarrassment. As I sat down next to her, she muttered, "Roger, this is funny. Cadence, according to Clive and Henry, you just lied to me. You really seem to enjoy the kissing scene. Those two old fools just decided to tease you." "It was just a kiss." I pulled her closer and kissed her as passionately as I could, our tongues gracefully sliding and playing with each other. She immediately surrendered to the kiss, her arms wrapping around my neck, holding on for dear life. When we parted, I looked into her brown eyes. Was there something like this? Her gaze immediately fell, and tears formed in the corners of her eyes. "Well, how was it?" I growled. She shook her head. "No, that wasn't it, really." "So, what do you think about repeating this scene?" "I'll come see for myself." "Well, I guess we'll rehearse it again at the next rehearsal on Thursday." "And if I come, will I see a kiss like the one we just exchanged?" "Honey, we're playing lovers. It's a passionate scene, so the kiss should reflect that." "Cadence, please, I beg you, stop this nonsense. There are plenty of other plays. If, as Nigel said, he is interested in future projects, then you will have another chance in a more suitable role. Roger, this isn't just about the play. It's about more than that. It annoys me that you think you own me. It's like you don't trust me. For God's sake, you even use the words forbid me. I'm not your possession. I have my own opinions. I don't want to take away your right to choose. I just don't understand why you can't see what everyone else sees. It's just a bunch of cheap garbage. None of the other women in the group want any part of it. Couldn't you just give her a chance and then see if you can get over your jealous feelings? Do you think it's because I'm jealous? Of course, love. You see Nigel as a threat because he is rich and famous. Of course, you are jealous. That's normal. I understand. That's why I think if you give yourself time, you can get over it." I stood up abruptly. "If that's what you think of me, then I think I should move to Michael's room until I find another place." Her face turned pale as I left. "What are you talking about? Find another place? I already told you I'm not going to be the laughingstock of the village. If you heard all the gossip in the pub, you'd understand. They're already pointing the finger at the poor, unsuspecting husband. I'm sorry, Cadence, but if you insist on continuing this, then I have no choice." When I got up in the morning, I left for work without waiting for her. During the day, I met Felicity for lunch. "Felicity, could you talk to Cadence? Try to talk some sense into her." She frowned. "I already tried, I'm afraid, Roger, but we're not talking now. She's just as mad at me as she is at you." As we talked, it became clear that the theater society had become a topic of discussion in the village. There was a lot of gossip. I asked who the actresses were, and she admitted that none of the female members wanted to participate and all turned down roles. She leaned closer. Roger, I'm holding a meeting of the Theatrical Society this evening. You're welcome to come. I would appreciate your support. I want to put an end to this once and for all. I hugged her. Thank you, Felicity. I'm grateful, and you can count on my support. But this time, I think I should stay away. If the feelings are as strong as you say, my presence is not needed. When I got home, Cadence looked stressed, and dinner was already on the table. It's early for dinner, isn't it? I asked. She gave me an irritated look, grumbling, there's a meeting at the theater tonight, and I need to be there. A meeting? Well, maybe I should go too. God, no, she blurted out sarcastically. Your opinion is the last thing I want to hear at this meeting. I shrugged. All the more reason for me to attend. Please, Roger, stay away. I considered my options. After talking with Felicity, it became clear that they did not need my help. Okay. When Cadence returned home, she was in tears. She screamed loudly at me, ignoring Diana, who was watching TV with me. Well, you've achieved your goal. The play is cancelled. What's happened? You know exactly what happened. Felicity told me she spoke to you, so don't act like you had nothing to do with it. The committee cancelled the play. God bless. Yes, I knew you'd be happy. Yes, I'm glad. Now perhaps there will be peace in this house again. Diana sat trembling next to me as she watched our argument. She jumped up with tears in her eyes. I am going to sleep. She walked past her mother, but Cadence grabbed her and hugged her. Everything will be fine, dear. Everything will be fine. Diana smiled thinly. I don't like it when you fight. It scares me. I don't want Daddy to leave. Good night, Mom. After she left, Cadence sat down next to me. I asked, what happens now? She shook her head. I don't know. Nigel was furious, completely mad, and so was Harry. They both put so much time and effort into this. I feel sorry for them. So, the play is cancelled? Yes, the announcements will be posted tomorrow. There was tension between us for the next few days, but it was nice to have Felicity at our house on Wednesday. When I got home from work, they talked in the sunny room over a glass of sherry. I left them alone, but it was nice to see them. They have been friends for so long. That night, after dinner, the atmosphere warmed up noticeably. Cadence and I snuggled up while Diana watched something terrible on TV, one of those nasty reality shows they were both so into. They chatted and laughed, making snarky remarks about shallow characters and poor acting as the show continued. Who would have thought, but Nigel himself appeared on the screen for a moment. He was just as bad as the other implausible performers. Diana made a couple of snarky remarks that Cadence didn't appreciate at all, and I felt her tense up next to me. After Diana went to bed, Cadence was still pressed against me. I'm sorry if I overreacted, love, but this play was important to me. I needed something to do, and I really enjoy acting. This role would have really pushed me out of my comfort zone. Honey, I love that you're involved, and I'm sure there will be other roles for you. Yeah, but it was going to be a big deal. Nigel was going to pull some strings and get real publicity. I know it would only be a local event, but it would have been the biggest thing for me. What do you think of our first part of the story today? In my opinion, things are slowly heating up. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. See you in the comments.